1, 2, 3, 4.
Out here at a Bali villa, gone and flown in 3 members of my team, our head of content, head of sales, and chief of staff. We have an ambitious 10 days ahead of us. It's a good chance when we're all in person to scrub things like our newsletter strategy, YouTube strategy, Instagram strategy. So what we like to do is just go into the details, right? Figure out what's working best. A lot of people, will give you all these different productivity hacks, but the reality is an old school checklist just works its magic. I like to go and just dump all of my to-dos into something like Apple Notes. The note is titled Bali. I started at the top just reminding myself, I am an athlete, no small boy shit. What would make the better story? Abundance, community, and fun. These are just a couple things when I read them, I'm like, all right, let's fucking go. A key aspect here that I think gets lost is that I'm still involved in the details. I'm just involved in the right details. I think there's this misconception, that's really existed in companies for like the last 5 years, which is this concept of micromanagement. I think it's made a lot of founders and CEOs scared to actually just get in the details, to get in the mix, to know what's going on in your business. I think of myself as the chief detail officer of Founder OS and of Herb. There is no detail of the business that's too small for me to have an understanding of. I get it, right? Sometimes it's so overwhelming, all of the details in a business. So here's a simple way to think about those details. 3 useful frameworks to look at. The first one is you likely want to look at things that are high impact, low effort. These are the things that you can do pretty easily that are instantly going to move the needle forward in your business. Number 2 is you want to probably look at the tasks that are going to have the biggest financial impact. What are the things that are going to be most cash driving? Because inevitably, you're probably not going to look back on completing that thing and regret it. It actually moved the needle forward. Lastly, and sometimes this is most important, is just what excites you on the list. Maybe just kind of follow that energy. Go and get that thing done while it feels spicy, it feels fun, it feels enjoyable. One thing I think that also gets overlooked along the way is that we as humans believe that we shape our environment, but it's equally as true that our environment shapes us. I'm here in Bali. We've got the gym set up, the cold bath, the sauna, the right people, the right nature. We've got everything that we need to make this a high-performing environment and then get all these details hammered out. Chief Detail Officer, start viewing yourself like that. Welcome to the club.
Got a message from X named Lewis Crook, and Lewis runs Form Bali. They do blood work. Again, you think that the benefits are just, recruiting and getting leads or whatever, but personal brands also lead to blood draws. The more I take care of my health, the more just like everything in my life transforms, including my business. I was just on a call this morning for about an hour with my health coach, Sadie, and she was saying how, she almost thinks that these sort of metrics, when you're like a CEO, should almost be as important and almost included with like the rest of your company metrics. Your revenue growth in a month and your profit growth in a month and your team size and your costs and your profit margin, all these things are important, but equally, if not, way more important is stuff like your testosterone levels, vitamin levels across your body. Like as an example, I found through much more optimized mineral levels of all things, it's given me a much greater ability to deal with stress, also be a lot less reactive. And then you can imagine how that translates into management and into being a leader. Someone does something that kind of annoys you. Instead of just being the first to react to it, maybe it just gives you that 6-second gap now to slow down, take a breath, pause, and then respond to it away or even ask a question that then leads to a completely different outcome because you're feeling good versus the person that isn't taking care of themselves, is highly reactive, and just kind of bites back when someone maybe on the team makes a mistake. You kind of compound that sort of decision making. And as CEOs, we make 10,000 big and small and tiny decisions a day, the compounding effect of that over months, years, I've seen is insane. Healthy founders build healthy businesses.
Do you mind if I do just a selfie with? I'm here to do selfies, right? Do you want to take a picture? 1, 2, 3. Honestly, well, the only guy who makes simple, complex shit. Like really, and the way, I use your voice also. 2, 3 a lot. I was like, one day I meet you, I need to say thank you. Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it, man. Thank you guys. Here we go.
Perfect timing. Yeah, there's a Casey nice that just walking around, just waiting for someone to say, yeah, hey, nice.
When I see these thoughts in my brain, never know if love will remain like a wave.
Just in general in my life, like I have a health coach that I sync with like often, just like to manage my energy better. Like just like it's not about fucking driving so hard. Like that is always my default. She was like, it sounds like you need to do a better job of parenting yourself. Like you're kind of acting like a kid that just like it's no supervision. It's like, all right, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna do that. He's like, manage yourself, you know? So even like today a bit or whatever, it's like I can feel myself when I'm like, okay, whoa, like it's like, hey, just slow her down. He was sustainable. He was sustained.
Good news is that's what you're telling everybody to do too in all the videos.
Yeah, it was just to live this shit.
So we've got like 152 slides we're ripping here. I thought it was, really important. It's one thing just to say we're gonna do something. It's another thing just to show it. So I spent about 4 hours. I put this thing together. I guess like the science and the art behind scaling this so that quality, if anything, grows over time. As we scroll through this, I'll skip a bunch of the intro because we already know this shit. This is more for the rest of the team if they need to be onboarded to it. As we're kind of making an effort now is like really nailing down these brand principles, right? So I think some key ones that we've been focused on really recently is obsessive craftsmanship, the aesthetics, which we'll get into here in a second, keeping things insanely simple along the way, and then hitting them with some of the aesthetics just to flex our taste.
Looking at this deck, I can show you how I've already organized the brand principles in terms of the organic content. And I could just show you. Taking the brand themes from here, I think one of the biggest things is people don't know how to communicate brand in organic lifestyle content because they think that their life is just organically their brand, but that's not strategic. So in this, there's 3 tabs here. There's like kind of a video context. It's a lot of words, but this is just like everything that we can feed into Claude or ChatGPT to make anything. But here's like the core themes, topics, and storylines that are taken directly from that last brand principles page. Kind of inception, but make art, not content. That's exactly like what this scene shows you. The other themes in this video being you being a chief detail officer, so within the business, and then a return on brand, like the philosophy of personal brand's impact on business. One step further so that we make sure that we get the organic material out of your mouth. Questions that are designed to prompt you to engage with the audience, entertain the audience, inspire, and impress the viewers. This is just to show you the detail that I've taken from your articulation of what brand principles and our through lines are into like a video by video kind of structure. That's how I plan on on taking that into action.
I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, for all these, it's the key thing is decks are nice and all, but making sure that the deck actually translates to the plans that we got on the ground floor.
Decks and docs.
Decks and docs, baby. Inevitably, like our vision with the community of FounderOS is to help founders unleash their creative potential. And so we want to live that vision like we do with everything else.
Yeah.
And we've been talking to a lot about that like interesting balance. Like on the one side, you have like the artistic prowess of someone like a Gox. And then on the other side, you have like the off the cuff value per second of like a Hormozy. And in a way, we kind of want like a piece of both those worlds. Obviously though, keep like organically us. On the system side, I think we have like a bunch of different ways we can be showcasing systems to keep it entertaining. There's the one aspect of using sort of screen flow just behind the scenes, like actually sharing my screen. There's another one, which is like the more aesthetic approach. So whether that's just like showing me writing it on paper or whatever it may be, I think the thing that we can improve here is showing like the actual system being implemented live with the team. I don't think a lot of people realize that like I run a sales team of 8 people. I run a customer success team of 6 people. I'm working with you collaboratively on the creative team of like 9 people there. I think if people can see like the details and the systems actually coming to life with a group of people, it's like, oh shit, that's how that works.
I think what's cool is we have like our super value dense formats on videos where you walk people through the content GPS or like your organic content strategy for each social platform. And then starting to incorporate like more lifestyle content where like people see this isn't just a script that we whipped up to like give people value that we think they need. It's the actual stuff that you get value out of within your business. So it's like when you're telling people create a Pinterest board and then you're like showing me a 152-page deck of what you want. It's not like this BS that we're putting people like on a wild goose chase.
For sure. Well, I think that's that.
Okay, lit.
So I know a lot of you are watching this right now and you're going, Matt, one sec, can you share this deck with me? The answer is probably no. I think this is internal company IP and I ain't sharing this. You're gonna have to stick around, watch every week because we're gonna be rolling this out slowly. That said, what does this deck consist of? Well, you can just see that I've taken down every single core detail of what makes a brand, and I found references and I've written down what my expectations are for each of those aspects. Lighting, contrast, copy, the different shots we want, the moments we want, the dialogue, the branding, the consistency, the cinematography, the references, the creators, how to actually do it, the systems. I mean, the list goes on, as you can see. The key thing that I want you to remember, right, is that you have a vision. You know what you want if you're being honest. You don't have to go and do things the way Matt does it, Hormozy does it, Gary Vee does it, Bartlett does it, name the person. I think, in fact, when you have that feeling like, oh, I don't want to be like this thing, cool. That's probably actually a sign that you do have a vision for what you do want to be then. So document it, write it down, detail it out, find the references of those things and share it. I don't care whether it's Pinterest, a deck, Google Slides, Keynotes, Photoshop, Figma, fuck the tools. You need to go and document it. You have the ability to translate whatever the hell's in your brain to some sort of board or deck or something. Put it down so that you can share it with others. The key leverage point that I want to make sure you remember from this, right, is that when you finally take all that creativity that's been circling in your brain, that's been keeping you up at night, that you've been dreaming about, and you translate that to something that others can see, what then happens is you mobilize people, you mobilize an audience, you mobilize your team because finally they can see, okay, fuck, that's what you mean. And that's where the real magic happens, because then you're not the only one staying up at night dreaming about that vision. You've now enabled other folks around you to dream that same vision as you. So hopefully this has inspired you. I mean, just talking about this fires me up. We got a lot of big shit out of the way. You're gonna wanna stay tuned. So be sure to like and subscribe, and welcome to the Founder Freedom Movement. 11 p.m. leadership meeting.
Good evening. Hey guys, good morning. What's up, everybody? There's the legend himself.
Doing well, y'all. Doing well. How we doing? Cool. Let's get right into it. I think the big thing is like we are in a year where like I think the themes are like founder success, and the other theme is like recruiting the best of the best. Like these roles come open and they're really an opportunity for us to go, okay, like how I internalize it is, hey, those were some great team members. I see this as like a sign that we can actually like, it's time to level up. I think one aspect though that could always be increased is like finding some down motherfuckers that are just obsessed constantly around what we're doing. Hey, we do a deck and they're like, oh, can I help with that system? Oh, I noticed this YouTube video you put out. You put that design there. Like, can I help with that? Oh, the event's coming up. What can I help with it there? Like, they're just in it. It's like someone that's just like, but what about this and this and this and this? And you're like, wow, this person's just producing. And the kind of people I think that we need to have going forward are also people that like aren't so precious that it's like, I heard this story of like Evan Spiegel from Snapchat. He would get like 20 things around the product, maybe say yes to one every now and then. It's not garbage though, the fact that you didn't push those other 19 product designs. That's just like part of though building a great brand is just saying no, 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 experimenting. And I'm like, yeah, you push some stuff. We're standing on such like good ground that now we can just go so high and really push the envelope with it. So I'm excited. Overall, I think things are going well. January has like been solid. It sets the tone for like, okay, can we build a really formidable founder experience and keep compounding there? Also keeping in mind, obviously we're the leaders. So can we make sure that the people around us are like really elevating, right? And constantly pushing the needle, which is like the main leverage we can provide, right? And when we talk about building the greatest founder community of the 21st century, I think this is like a step in the right direction. These are oftentimes some of our best months of the whole year. So now's really the time to hit it. Now's the time to put our foot on the gas. All right, let's do this, y'all. Appreciate you guys all. Much love. There we are. So that was the 4 leaders at Founder OS, all what I like to call down motherfuckers. The best thing
about being surrounded with people like that in your company is that it's just an incredibly smooth transition from the vision that you have as a founder to then translating it to these people that don't just nod their heads, agree on things, and then not get them done. No, I know these are the kind of people that are going to instantly action the stuff that we commit to and get after it. These are the kind of people that, I got to pinch myself many days to be like, damn, I'm so lucky to get to work with such talented people that care, that show up, that take extreme ownership, that are obsessed with the founder experience. A lot of founders get caught up in wondering, how do I find the perfect leadership team? I think first things first, in life, you get what you tolerate. If you want to have an amazing leadership team, you need to make sure that you have a standard within your company, within your brand, that is something aspirational, inspirational, that is attractive to someone that is an A player, a brand that stands for something, that you have a compelling vision for where you're trying to go with your company, that an individual's vision can fit under that umbrella. That at the end of the day, I think that you're just building a product that people love. I think when you have that bar, when you have that standard, it really translates, right? People can feel my passion for what I'm doing. They can feel the love, the obsessiveness, the craftsmanship, the artistry, the taste, the time, the love that goes into every pixel, every email, every piece of content, every YouTube video, every detail. When you translate that to someone, whether that's some hiring post I put out on Instagram, the right people I find are attracted to that sort of messaging, that energy, that vision. If you genuinely believe in what you're doing, put yourself out there, put the message out there, because people gravitate to founders that have a vision and are passionate about what they do. And this is why I'm so passionate about founder-led brands, because beyond marketing and all this other stuff people may use brands for, I think they're one hell of a recruitment weapon. It's January 2025. We got a big year ahead of us here, and it's going to be these weapons on the leadership team that are going to be really critical in making this all happen. So, that's my spiel.
When I see these thoughts in my brain.
All right, so I talk a lot about being a chief detail officer as the founder and CEO of your empire. And so this is how to be a chief detail officer, 111 scaling details that you need to know about. So, details kill companies, okay? You need to know the ins and outs, right, of how your content system works. You need to know your cash system in your business, from going from, someone that's aware of what you do through to that person actually going and joining as a customer, right? You need to understand that entire flow. Now, details can kill you, right? Or they can help scale your company. But most founders, they miss 90% of what actually matters because they don't understand the ins and outs of their business, which is super important. So it's time for you to become a chief detail officer. So what I've done here is I've summarized 111 of the core details that as you scale from nothing to 8 figures and beyond, the details that you need to have sorted out in your business. It doesn't mean that you need to do all of these things yourself, right? Systemizing and delegating are key, but you do need to be aware of these things. You do need to have these things documented so that as you scale, you build a calm company, a company where you can leave for a month and come back and that business is stronger than when you left. It's not sucking your soul. The last thing you want to be doing is running a business that's just running you into the ground. And I know because I've been there. My first business, BitMaker, it nearly ruined me. I felt every day like I was depressed, I was down and out, and from the outside, things looked successful, but inside, I felt rotten. And so what I want to do here is detail out the sort of systems and details that you need to have sorted in your business to help you scale peacefully, which is really what it's all about, right? So these are 111 insane details that will change everything for you. Let's get into it. So first off, on the content side, right? Let's talk about some of the details you need there. I think first off, you need a content GPS in your business, right? Which is the way that I've gone and grown my audience. I scale those people through to newsletter subscribers and then drive them to the different portfolio companies that I go and I operate. You want to make sure that each platform you have different guidelines for. Your brand voice is documented. You have a quality control checklist across your product, across your content to make sure that things are dialed in without mistakes. You want to have an amazing distribution strategy, right? Ideally picking 2 platforms to start.
If you're video first, that may be Instagram and YouTube. If you're more writing first, you may choose a platform like X and LinkedIn. And as a founder, you need to be building your brand, right? The future of brands are founder-led, and people follow people, then they follow companies. So you want to make sure as a founder that you're putting your face out there, you're putting your message out there and building a movement. In addition to that, you want to make sure you're tracking analytics, the performance, doubling down on what's working every month, and then reducing the things that just ain't working. When I go and think about my own content, right, I go and try to create 50% of content that's growth content to grow more eyeballs to my business, to my audience, and grow the followers. And then 50% of the content is more niche content. And that's more specific content speaking exactly to founders that are doing 7 figures and beyond and helping them with the specific stuff that they need. So growth content may be something like a deep work piece of content I put out there that's applicable to everyone. Whereas niche content may be about how to build a organic content funnel. So something much more specific, much more niche to what I do in, my systems focus of my content. So this is the content GPS. And if there was any system that has been most responsible to my success over the last 14 years, building multiple 7 and 8 figure companies, it is this system. So growing a personal media company around myself with an amazing team and systems in place to grow on platforms like Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, X, and LinkedIn. Then I drive these people to my owned audience in my newsletter through different CTAs and really high converting content. And then driving people through to customers, onboarding them correctly, making sure they have a remarkable, amazing experience, ensuring that they then want to tell all their friends about it. And then this creates a profit flywheel because you bring in a customer, you dazzle them, they go tell their friends, and then boom, you just have this organic growth engine in your business. Inevitably, when you're growing, the best growth hack is just an amazing product. Now, another thing that you want to make sure you have set up in the details end of things is your content calendar. Remember, the best content strategy is the one that you can stick with. And so here's an example of what my content distribution looks like across every platform. I'm not saying you need to do what I'm doing here, but I do think you need to know the details of when your content is coming out on specific times of day on specific platforms you're live on. If you're just getting started, again, maybe you're just doing a few posts a week on X or a few LinkedIn posts a week, but eventually you want to kind of, grow that to a more, omnipresent distribution schedule like the one I'm showing you here. Now, on the operations excellence side, you need to make sure that you have things like a daily dashboard in your company so that your team can go and understand the metrics and the health of the business across every single department. You want to make sure that your project management is dialed in so that you're increasing the shipping velocity in your company and you're getting the right things done on time. You want to make sure that you have things like all your systems backed up, your reporting structures, your security protocols to protect your website, protect your IP, and make sure that all of your tool stack is documented as well. A key part of why you want to document all these things is so that when you have a new hire go and join your team, they're not meandering around for 3 months wondering, where is everything? How does this company even work? When you have things documented, you have processes in place, you have the systems in the right spot for the right people in a company wiki, maybe in Notion or maybe in a Google Workspace, you just make it way easier for your company to navigate, to manage, to scale. And the benefit there is that when you bring on new people or even for your existing team, they can move fast. And that is the ultimate advantage of any small business. While big businesses are archaic and slow, small startups win because of speed. So these systems help you optimize for speed. This is an example of me going and documenting the operations workflow for our videos, right? So we go and we have ideation, which is owned by me. We have a calendar that we create, like you just saw. From there, we're planning out our videos because packaging comes first. So title, thumbnail, and the concept. We're then going and recording these videos. They then go to editing, distribution, and then we go and we monitor performance. So at every step of the flow here, there's a core owner, a core system, and this helps us go and ramp up the distribution, ramp up the quality because everything is documented very clearly with specific owners. So this is just an example of the kind of systems you want to have in place. Now, customer success, my belief is that it is the most powerful form of marketing. So you want to make sure that you're having NPS surveys that go out, net promoter scores. So you can understand, how likely are your customers to recommend your business to a friend? You want to make sure that you have success metrics in place, understanding things like, how retained are your customers? How likely are they to refer you to other people? Are they leaving reviews on your product? Are they recommending you? Are they, being a real advocate for your brand? Inevitably, you don't just want customers, right? You want these ambassadors that they experience your product or service, and they can't help but go and tell 5 friends about you. That is what success looks like for me. So on the success metrics side, you may look at things like the amount of Trustpilot reviews you get, your client wins. You can look at different call notes, Asana task completion, which is the project management tool we use internally at FounderOS and my portfolio of companies. In addition to that, I like to make sure that given people on my team are sending end of day and end of week reports so that we have a tight communication in our company, because as a company scales, communication is probably the biggest strain on a company. And so the more people are staying in the loop, sending detailed reports end of week on what they accomplished, what they're getting done next week, any bottlenecks or challenges that they're experiencing, the more that we can just continue to dial things in as a squad. Now, brand is everything. The thing that I enjoy most as I'm building a business is the brand. Setting up things like brand guidelines, brand identity, the community guidelines, the way that our brand shows up, the different voice, the tone, the copy, the visual identity, making sure that at any single touch point, whether it's an email, a newsletter, a social post, anywhere, that all of that stuff is consistent. I think that great brands should feel like they are all coming from one person. So even if it's a whole team working on a brand, I want to feel like every single touch point I experience feels like, oh, this just all feels so tight, so cohesive, so consistent, no matter where I'm viewing this brand. That is something I am obsessed with. So this is an example of really then documenting, say, brand positioning in your company, right? So that not just you, but your team, your sales, your customer success, they all know how to speak about your brand. So this is an example for FounderOS, right? Number one, the best way to build an online business is a personal brand. That's really our thesis on the future. The next aspect here is that you need to be creating content that's beautiful, systemized, and scalable to build an amazing personal brand. And lastly, the best way to build an impactful personal brand is a content GPS system with FounderOS, which again is the most powerful system I've ever invented. Now, the next aspect here is finance, right? And cash flow is the lifeblood of your business. So you want to make sure your forecasting is dialed, you have your profit margin dialed across all your different products, you're tracking expenses, where's the revenue attribution coming per channel that you're distributing your content on. You have things like your financial reporting dialed in, tax planning, investments. All of these core items are key. So I'll show you here too, this is my delegation example, right? You want to make sure that when you're going and delegating to folks that you're bringing on people that when you look at the math, it just makes sense. This person really quick is going to be a 3-4x ROI based on what you're paying them. And if you can keep making good bets, right, which, bringing on people to your company is essentially a bet. The better you are at that, the better and more smoothly you're going to be able to scale. And more importantly, you're going to be able to build a product that people love and a culture that you are having fun with and excited to wake up to every single day. And so marketing precision is another core aspect you want to be thinking about. So every single part of the customer journey needs to be mapped out, right? You need to have your email marketing flows, your brand guidelines, your marketing calendar, conversion optimization, community management, and the ROI of these activities all across the board. This is an example of my marketing calendar over the next 12 months. So I've indicated every single month what's a core activity that we're doing on the marketing side to build a level of FOMO, to build hype, to build excitement, to constantly have great things that we're releasing, to keep things jazzy, to keep people juiced up in our audience, because there's always good stuff coming down the pipe. In addition to that, right, you need to make sure that you have a badass distribution strategy. So focusing on nailing 2 platforms to start and then scaling out from there. I originally started on X and LinkedIn when I was going. I then 6 months later took my best content to Instagram, to YouTube, to TikTok in short form videos. And then when I felt more comfortable, I started bringing things to the big stage here on YouTube. And so what you want to be doing is the same thing, right? Pick 2 platforms to start. If you like being on video, go YouTube and Instagram. If you like writing, then maybe X and LinkedIn. Either way, you should have a newsletter as well and get ripping. Just get started, get 10% better every week, and before you know it, you'll be a maestro. I like to have things like purchase flywheels baked in too. This is an example here. When someone joins one of my products, they then are prompted to go and share that they joined on X, on LinkedIn, which creates this flywheel essentially in my businesses. Sales, right? Sales is something that I think you should be intimately involved in the details there as a founder, because sales create revenue, create cash flow. And again, cash flow is the lifeblood of your business. So knowing all the different pipeline stages, making sure you have your hiring of new salespeople dialed in, you making sure you have the right setters and sales development reps going and driving you leads, making sure that your pitch script, your CRM are all dialed in for growth. Every single one of these details, the more smooth they are, the more scalable your business will be. So at Founder OS, as an example, in all of my companies, we use HubSpot as our CRM. In here, we have different dashboard views that allow us to go and essentially track everyone from the different stages that they're in, from a lead to a sales convo to someone that we've pitched, someone that we're waiting to hear back from, all the way through to then our whole customer success pipeline as well. So we have probably around 30 different stages that go from someone being aware of us all the way through to someone going and referring someone to us. And we have all of those details sussed out so that it's a smooth and scalable process. It's delightful for customers and it's fun for us to deliver on. On the growth side, you need to make sure that you have things like A/B testing going and dialed in long term, making sure that you have a good market analysis, understanding what other options are that people have in your market, and really inevitably what makes you different. You really need to understand how you're positioning yourself. At Founder OS, we have dashboards, right, that we go and track. I have my HubSpot ones, but I also have manual dashboards in Google Sheets. The purpose of that is because at the end of the day, when you have a manual dashboard, it's being filled out exactly how you want. You don't have any issues with data integrity. And I find it useful so that there's never this excuse of, oh, this piece of tech isn't working right, or I don't know if that's hooked in quite right. It's like, if it's updated by a human, we have a VA on our team that does all this, it just makes it that much easier, to be honest. So we have a bunch of metrics that are being tracked with a key owner, and every single week we're monitoring that, and then I get reports every Friday based on our performance. On the team excellence side, right, having your org chart dialed in, compensation frameworks, career planning, and making sure you're documenting your culture. If someone joins any of my companies, day one, we go through our culture and values deck to make sure that they are crystal clear on how we operate and what's important to us, so they can get kind of integrated into that culture and they're working how we like to work, right? We build sports teams here, and we want to make sure that we're bringing on people that are essentially athletes and bring that kind of peak performance mentality. So this is an example of me going and documenting my org chart, right? Getting clear on every single role across every single company, and then the core metric, one core metric that each of these people are responsible for. Then obviously your systems, right? Strong systems build strong businesses. So everything from your data integrity, your systems access controls, backup procedures, different protocols, air handling, recovery plans, you want all that stuff documented. On the tech side, as an example, I've gone and kind of outlined here some tech you probably want to consider across different areas of your business. Hype Fury is an example if you're looking to schedule content on X. On the funnel optimization side, right? You want to make sure that you have your analytics and an understanding of every single stage. What's the current bottleneck in your funnel? What's the piece of the funnel that people are getting caught up in, that they're maybe getting stuck in? And then when you can unlock that piece of the business, boom, you just get that many more leads, that much more revenue. In addition, things like your nurture sequences, your automated emails across each part of your funnel. You want to know, when someone joins as a lead, what do they get triggered in terms of your email flows? When they go and abandon an application, what kind of abandoned application email do they get? When they abandon a sales call, what abandoned sales call email they get? So you want to map this all out. I personally love to use FigJam, which is a Figma product, to go and map out that whole flow so it's super seamless, beautiful, and we're thinking about all the different permutations of ways that people could go through it and also drop off of it so we can recover those people and bring them back in. This is an example of what our FigJam would look like. So anything from social media, joining the newsletter, applying, getting on a sales call, and then if they abandon these different stages, what sort of email sequences they get put into. And if they qualify for one product or another, we have different sequences and different flows that they would go through. Lastly, on the legal side, I know, Last thing we want to be talking about is legal, but it's important that you have all this stuff documented as well. Everything from contracts, terms of services, to your insurance, data, all this good stuff. You want to make sure that's taken care of by a reputable person. This is an example on the CEO scorecard side. I get an update from my CFO every single Friday at 5 p.m. EST, giving me my weekly revenue, our profit, and the 3 key priorities that I need to focus on the next week to continue to get the business 10% better every single week. So when you're going and building your business, if you have a finance manager or a director of finance, I would recommend that you go and you take these metrics I have here, adapt them to your business, and get that person to either send you a Slack message and or a text message every single Friday so you can always understand the health of your business and then keep those feedback loops between what you're doing in your business and the cash flow side of things super tight so you can continue to make sure that you're building a healthy empire. So these are the details that really matter as you're scaling your business. If you want more proven systems to level up, you should go and apply to Founder OS via the link in the description. Much love. Welcome to the Founder Freedom Movement. Like and subscribe, and let's win together.